Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we got to talk about the Washington Wizards. I love talking about my Wizards. And yeah, we're in a rebuild. But as you guys know, as always been watching Washington basketball since 2009 when I moved here from Orlando. As you guys know, I'm an Orlando Magic, Washington Wizards, Minnesota Timberwolves fan. That's everywhere I've lived, every team I've watched or gone to a game of. And the funny part is like, yeah, I know I'm a masochist, but watching the Wizards, I haven't been this hopeful. Like, I'm so stoked to see Bob Carrington, who great guy from Baltimore, good guy. Love that we got kind of technically a local kid. Then Alex Sarr, yeah, like he is high risk, high reward. I think obviously he's got his risks, but look, it's what for a weak draft class, it's what we had to do. Okay. And then, of course, Keyshawn George, who really could be the sleeper. But that's not even what we're talking about. Today, we're talking about a report that came out. It is the Wizards are in the deconstruction phase of their rebuild. So this is coming from Josh Robbins of The Athletic. So you know it's a credible, reputable source that's putting that out. So before we continue today's video, do you guys agree it is the deconstruction phase? We're trying to suck this year because we want this draft class. Besides Cooper Flag, the rest of the guys that are in this draft class, even in 2027 or 2026 and 2025, both of those are really good draft class. And that's what we needed to do. Let's be honest. It's what we needed to do. So what is this deconstruction phase? Hey, I think we're doing a better job of a rebuild than the Portland Trailblazers, huh? And for years, obviously, we avoided fully leaning into the rebuild. And the team would just retool, improve on the margins, trying to build from like the middle up is what they said. Now, obviously, under the Michael Winger, Will Dawkins front office, they are fully tanking, fully rebuilding with two guys. Winger's from the Clippers, but he was with the Thunder before that. And Will Dawkins is coming straight from the Thunder. Will Dawkins said this: if you really think about it, the phases of the rebuild, there's the deconstruction phase, there's the laying the foundation phase, there's the building it back up, and then there's the fortifying what you build. We're still focusing on the deconstructing and laying that foundation. And I think that's important to remind everyone. We're still early in the process, end quote, Dawkins said. And Dawkins said he's excited to see what Brian Keefe does with a full season. As you guys know, we moved on from Wes Unseld Jr. and Brian Keefe was, as you guys don't know, you might not know, last year when the new execs came on, they were not allowed to fire Wes Unseld Jr., so they replaced his lead assistant coach to Brian Keefe, and then obviously halfway through the season, moved Wes Unseld to the advisory role, and then Brian Keefe wrote out the season. And actually, you guys don't realize this. Our record wouldn't show it, but people don't realize we actually played better basketball under Brian Keefe. And Brian Keefe is known as a really good player developer and a good defensive coach. He's credited with developing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Kevin Durant and many more players. So he's very, very known. And when he was hired as permanent head coach this offseason, and the Wizards and general manager feel like this roster is definitely more versatile. Like, we actually have a center. Patrick Baldwin Jr. and Danilo Gallinari were playing backup center minutes last year. That's no good. And Rashawn Holmes was our starting center. No offense to Rashawn Holmes, but we all know what that meant. So the last quote I want to read is, I would say our fans can anticipate us using that versatility that we added. We want to play players at multiple positions. I think you've seen we've added bigger, longer guys. We're going to be a better defensive team. We are going to make more of a better disposition, and we're going to make massive strides. Are we going to make massive strides? Probably not. But the intent, the effort, that will be better, end quote. Basically, we won't look like a crappy team. And guys, I really think this rebuild is going to look very similar to the Thunder, where the first couple of years, we're not going to care about an offensive identity. They're going to care about a defensive identity. Guys who put the effort, guys who play hard, and guys that we know who can go ahead and do it. So, look, I don't think Keefe will be fired. And this is what you need. You need to spend 2 years tearing apart a team because of like how the money is and with the the apron. And obviously you got to wait for the draft classes, align yourself and lose on purpose. And then 3 years of losing while blaming it on development. By the time they realize, what players they have, you would have collected enough salaries that it's much easier to start building that team around that you have, a bunch of young salaries. You know which guys you got to pay, which guys you got to go, and you probably pay one of those guys and you move forward and you start to move that. And I think that's then it's much easier once you have all those puts. It's easier to actually build a good roster and have expectations. But you got to build that slate. So I think, and people don't realize, well, why'd you sign Valanciunas to a 3-year, $32 million deal? First off, we had no center. We needed an adult in the room at the center position to help Alex Sarr, who's not a good rebounder. And then that way, guess what? If Jonas plays well, somebody's going to want to trade for him because that's a really good contract. And Wiz have the money to spend it, and they need to spend money, and they'll eventually trade him for future assets. While Valanciunas wasn't probably going to get a deal larger than the mid-level exception, and there will be more suitors via trade than there were in free agency. It's obviously still a weird move for some, but I still think it's a good deal, and it all makes sense to me. So for me, when they call this the deconstruction and all that stuff, I really do think this is what was needed to be done, ladies and gentlemen. It's just this team, we needed to take it apart. We needed to figure out what was the right direction we wanted to go in. And to me, I think it's evident that the best way to go about this was, of course, building this team from the studs. You had to rip everything up. Obviously, I was a Denny Avdia fan. I love Denny Avdia. I met Denny Avdia this offseason in Vegas. Hammered at 2 a.m. But that's not the point. Even though I called Trace Jackson Davis for a second Khalil Ware, I was a fucking idiot. Fucking idiot when I did that. But I was hammered. I didn't even call him Khalil Ware. I mixed up their backgrounds. I was oh, I said something about Oregon. I was no, that was fucking Khalil. I'm sorry, Trace. It was Khalil Ware. Khalil Ware plays deal. Sorry, Trace. But either way, I'm excited to see Bub. I'm excited to see Keyshawn. Dude, Johnny Davis freaking sucks. I forget Johnny Davis is an NBA player. And this is just going to be the end of the video, but let's talk about that. Johnny Davis, you were supposed to be the most NBA ready player in your draft class. I genuinely thought you were one of the safest players in the draft. Dude, I guess you played more games this year, but dude, we had such bad guard problems. Jordan Goodwin, your rookie season, got more minutes than you. Had a bigger role, and he wasn't even drafted. I don't know. Can someone tell me, Johnny Davis, what's going on? Dude, he was the breakout star. It was crazy, his college season. And I'm trying to pull up his G League stats. Can someone show me? I gotta pull up these G League stats because he's gotta be okay in the G, right? You'd freaking hope. That's probably to me the most surprising. I wasn't even I honestly thought Johnny Davis was a decent pickup on our part. Whoa. I think that person did an illegal maneuver. Either way, that's going to be it. Yeah, let's see what Johnny Davis put up with the Capital City Go-Go. Dude, he still was not at all good. It was bad on both ends. That's not pretty at all, ever. But that's it. 5.